Hello friends, welcome back. In microservices world, we often needs to call one microservice from another microservices. So there are a few mechanisms how we can call one microservice from another microservices. Today we'll be learning that. One mechanism is to call using REST template, and the other very known mechanism is to call using FeignClient. So today we'll be learning both of them, how we can do that, and which one we should use in microservices world and which one we should be using non-microservices world. That's what we'll be learning. For that, I have written couple of microservices here. So the first one is a Eureka server, which I have already covered in my previous video, how to build your own Eureka server. So if you already haven't done that, please visit my previous episode and then see how we can build a Eureka server. We'll be using the same Eureka server in this video today. So this is my Eureka server application, which is running on port 8761. And we already learned, like, in Eureka server, we have to mark these two entries as false so that it won't register with itself. Next, we have a API gateway. So this is my API gateway, and this is the configuration of the API gateway, which is running on 8765. We won't be using API gateway for today's video, but still, in case, like, we'll enable this API gateway, and but we won't be calling through API gateway for this particular video. Next, we have two microservices. One is order service. So if you see, this order service is a Eureka client. It's registering with Eureka, if you see, and its name is order service. It's running on 8081 port. And the second microservice is payment service, which is running on 8082 port, and it is also a Eureka client. It's registers with Eureka server. And let's go inside these two microservices, see the implementations. So first we are going inside the order service. So order service, we have one endpoint, which is the controller. So this is the endpoint, order, and then we can call ID. We can pass the ID actually to invoke this endpoint, or this is a FeignClient endpoint, and this is a REST client endpoint, a REST template endpoint. So for FeignClient, what we have done here is we have created a payment client. So let's see what is this payment client. This is basically the FeignClient is. So this is where we have implemented FeignClient. So payment client is an interface where we have a mapping, get mapping. This mapping is basically the endpoint of the other microservice. So if we go to the payment service controller, you see this is a endpoint for payment service controller, make payment. So the endpoint is payment slash pay slash order ID. So this will invoke payment client. And if you see here, payment client, this is the same API, and we have a get mapping. So this is the call. So we have to define a FeignClient as an interface, and then we have to import this FeignClient, and for that we have to add one dependency. So let's see the dependency. Where is my FeignClient dependency? This is which one? Oh, I'm seeing that payment service. I need to check the order service form. So this is the order service form, which will be calling the other microservice through a FeignClient. So this is the dependency called Spring Cloud Starter Open Feign. So with this dependency, we can create a FeignClient. So this is the FeignClient we have created. And generally, if you do not have a Eureka server or service registry, you have to give the URL where the other or FeignClient is there. And so where the other microservice is running, you have to give that URL. But since I am using Eureka, it is registered, it's getting registered in Eureka with this name payment service. So I don't need to give this URL, and instead of that I'll give that name, and using that name I'll be you call that payment service. So here we need to annotate this interface with a FeignClient, add FeignClient, and if we are using service registry, so we'll pass the name of the service, name of the other service rather, right? And then this is the gate mapping, which you already understand. This gate mapping is nothing but whatever we have in that payment controller. So, and we are passing a order ID here as a path variable. So this is the FeignClient. Now again go back to the controller, order controller. So we have created a client. We have auto edit. This is the payment client. So while making the call from one microservice to the other microservice, so this is one microservice controller, order service controller. From here we are using this payment client and calling that make payment, this method, which will in turn call the payment service through a FeignClient, because we have used a FeignClient here, right? Means this payment client is nothing but a FeignClient. So this is one implementation. Again, I'm going to that FeignClient just to show you the implementation. This is very simple and very useful. We just need to annotate with the FeignClient, need to give the service name where we need to call, and then that method which we are going to call, and the mapping. That's it. For REST, right? REST is a different mechanism. It's more, we have to do more coding here. So this is the REST template. We have a REST template, and then let's go to order service and config. So this is a REST config I have to create. So I have created a REST template config where I have defined this REST template as a bean. So for REST template, you have to create a REST template config and have to define that REST template as a bean here. And this is a configuration, REST template configuration. And here in order controller, we have this REST template. Basically, this will call that config and will populate the REST template here. And then this REST template dot means there are multiple methods available. So since I'm doing a get call, I've used get for object. You can use post for object and many other methods available based on which you can change the arguments. So here I only need to pass the URI. So for this scenario, we won't get any help from service registry or Eureka. So we have to pass the entire URL, and then the response, whatever is the response, we have to pass that response.class. So we are getting a string, and that's how REST template dot get for object will get call, and it will return a string here, which we are printing here. I hope you understood the difference between feign and REST calls. So let's test it. To test it, I have a postman. Oh, first I need to run all these services. So let's first run the Eureka server. So this is my Eureka server. I will run the Eureka server where everything will get registered. So while Eureka server is starting up, I will run this API gateway as well, which is not needed for this particular example, but eventually I'll run it. Now I run Eureka, I run API gateway server, then I'll run the order service, which is the calling microservice. So I'm running, what happened, okay, this got hanged for a second. Okay, I ran this order service. Next I'll run the payment service. Okay, so now I started everything. Let's see how many services are running now. Wow, yeah, 4 services I have initiated. So let's open this Eureka. Where my Eureka is running? Eureka is running in, let's see in which port, 8761. So I'll open localhost and then 8761, and then, so if you see in Eureka, API gateway has registered on port 8765. Order service and payment service also has registered. So let's see the port of order service. It's registered on 8081. This one is payment services on 8082. Okay, so now let's test it and see. So uh, this is the call which will call place by Feign. Basically this this endpoint placed by Feign, and we are passing order ID, and this will use the Feign client and will invoke the second microservice and will return the response. How we'll know this will call the second microservice? Because we have to go to payment controller. So payment controller, if it comes to the second microservice, which is the payment service, it will print this line, payment successful for order ID, whatever I'll be passing from the order service, that will come here, right? So let's test this one. I invoke, and you see the response is coming. I can change this one to 111, and I still can invoke this one, and you see the response is coming from order placed successfully by Feign, payment successful for order ID, this one. So this message is coming from the payment service, this message is coming from the order service, that method where we have implemented Feign, like this one. This is where this message is coming, order placed successfully by Feign. Okay, and then we will test this one, REST. So now this message will come, and then the payment service same common message will come. So now this is that call. If you see order placed by REST, so this is order, then placed by REST, and then the order ID. So if I call this one, say I'll change it to 222, save and send. You see the message, this message is common because this is coming from the payment service, this is the message coming from the order service, the second method where we are calling through REST. So order placed successfully by REST. So this is from its game. Hopefully you understood the concepts of Feign versus REST call, but the question is when to use Feign versus when to use REST. In microservices world, we always should use FeignClient because of these benefits which I just showed you, that we never need to hard code the URL if we use Feign, because in microservice world we always use service registry. So we just need to use the service name, and using that Feign can Feign can connect to the other microservice. So that's why in microservice world we'll always use FeignClient. Then why or when we should use the REST template? If we are calling some third-party service somewhere else apart from microservice, say we are calling a REST call to a payment gateway service, right, or a weather service, then we should use a REST call. So hopefully you'll understood the concept of Feign versus REST, and if you learned something today, please like this video and share with your friends, and please subscribe my channel. Thank you. Have a nice day ahead. Bye.